Hello everybody, Lucas Haneman here, and welcome to this week's episode of Guitar Tone Tuesday, which is all about string gauge and the string gauge debate. Yes, the string gauge debate. Are you guys aware of this whole thing? A couple of years ago, a couple of the big guitar players on YouTube put out a video where they talked about string gauge and basically resolved to the fact that the lightest possible gauge strings gave us the best tone. And I would like to say that I disagree with that statement completely. Yes, my opinion is that the right gauge of strings for your guitar is the ones that feel best in your hands. I think it's a pretty logical debate to have. I think it's a pretty logical conclusion. Let's think about this. All of us are from different areas of the world. We all talk differently. We all go about our day-to-day life differently. We all have different physicality. Therefore, if my hands are different than your hands, and if our bodies are completely different, why should we be playing the same string gauge? Why should we all be playing super light gauge strings? And it's really funny. I got a comment on YouTube about a year ago from this guy, and he said to me, your tone's all right, but it would sound way better with 9-gauge strings. To which I laughed and I replied, yeah, man, I've tried it. It just doesn't work for me. And it's completely fine if something doesn't work for you. Now, I will say, I don't think people should necessarily be playing super heavy strings because you have to take care of your body and you have to really, really think about that. Like if you're trying to bend super heavy strings just to get a certain tone, then you might hurt yourself. And it's really important as guitar players to not hurt ourselves. Now, the reason why I personally have settled on the strings that I have settled on is because I am a left-handed guitar player who plays right-handed. So for me, I need something ever so slightly heavier than average to just do what I do and to hit the guitar the way I like to hit the guitar. Now, I will say that because I'm left-handed, I've never had a lot of trouble with strength in my left-hand fingers. When I was a younger player, getting like a whole tone bend didn't take quite as much work for me as it does for some of my right-handed students, so perhaps that gave me an upper hand with my left hand. But I did struggle a lot with my right hand, and I struggled with intricacy, so therefore I tend to hit the guitar a little harder than many of my right-handed colleagues. So because of those reasons, I've settled on, generally speaking, 11-gauge strings. This specific guitar, this Eastman T185 MX, has 11 to 52 gauge strings. If I was playing a Strat or a Tele, I would go 11 to 49 or maybe even 11 to 48. I like the tension of those strings because I can hit the guitar harder and it won't go out of tune. So, I can do a whole tone bend. And I can go, to the G string and do those David Gilmour style bends. I get a lot of sustain. And I just like these strings. They feel right to me. Now, it's important to experiment with different gauges of strings and maybe even keep a different gauge on a couple of your guitars because sometimes you're handed guitars that feel quite different. So, for instance, recently on the show, we featured this Explorer-style guitar built by Crimson Guitars in England. Remember this thing, guys? This crazy, crazy guitar right here? Amazing guitar. Now, this guitar was shipped with 9-gauge strings on it. So, yes, it feels way slinkier than what I'm used to personally. But the biggest thing is that when you're handed a different guitar, you have to adjust your touch to get used to the different gauge of strings. So, I can play the intro clip there. it sounds very similar, right? Yeah, of course, when I bend on this guitar, I'm going to have to be careful not to overshoot my bends because the strings are much lighter. But if I lighten up my touch with both hands, it doesn't feel that different. Now, I should say that I'm not someone who digs in too hard with my left hand. I've really trained myself, especially over the past 5 years or so, to have a much lighter touch with my left hand. So that doesn't really make a huge difference for me. I'm not pushing the chords of the tune like some people would, you know. But if I slam the guitar a lot harder with my right hand, then it might go a little bit out of tune, you know. So I just have to be careful there. But there's nothing wrong with this. You know, I could happily play this guitar no problem. But it's because I try to spend some time with different gauges of strings. I have my preferences, right? As should you. But spend some time with the different gauges just in case someone hands you a guitar and says, play this, and you don't want to look like a fool, right? So let me pick up an acoustic guitar too and just talk to you guys about that. So my preference on acoustic tends to be something in the 12 gauge range. I don't like to go crazy high because I do not like to fight the guitar. So I tend to go on a regular acoustic guitar. I'll go for 12 to 53 or 12 to 54, the standard light gauge set. But on this guitar, this has a 24.5 inch scale length. It's a Parlor guitar. So on this guitar, I still like that slinkier feel on the top string because I like to be able to bend it. So I go for 12. 12 to 56. Okay, so the low E string, I can hit it pretty hard, and I can go for some, more intense finger style playing. But I can still bend. I can dig into this guitar and it's going to take it, which is nice because I like to be able to play this Parlor guitar in all kinds of contexts, right? And it also makes it so when I pick up my dreadnought, it doesn't feel worlds apart, right? So anyways, that's all to say that, in my opinion, because of the fact that we're all so different, our hands are different. Again, you may be in my situation, you may be a left-handed person playing right-handed or vice versa. It's important to try all the string gauges and really find the one that feels right to you and that sounds best to you. Because, if a string gauge sounds a little bit different, just tweak the mic placement on your acoustic or just tweak the bass control on your amplifier and you'll be good to go. That's my humble opinion. So don't forget to let me know in the comment section below whether your feelings on string gauge. Do you prescribe to this debate? Are you someone who has been, have you changed your mind about strings? Are you going for a lighter and lighter gauge of string? I got to say, one thing I like personally about playing kind of a medium gauge of string is that it allows me to gauge down as I get older. I don't imagine that I'll be playing 11 gauge strings on my electric guitar when I'm 80 years old, right? So it's nice to be able to go down. Anyways, those are just my opinions. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell. We shall see everybody again next Tuesday.